Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about ACT reading. Now, the ACT reading test, much to everyone's surprise, is not actually a test of your reading ability. It's just a test of how well you approach the reading test. And that approach can be mastered through practice and repetition, which is what we're going to discuss in this video in 3 simple steps that you can start following right now and making real improvement right after this video. I'm not even kidding. It works like magic, and it's worked for me as well as students that I've tutored, and it can work for you as well. So I'm going to keep this video very simple and very straightforward. I'm just going to give you, like I said, the 3 steps that you need to start following to get the fastest and most significant improvement possible. And these steps aren't just your straightforward, practice, keep practicing and use these strategies, do this, do that. It's not just about practice and strategies, it's about finding your weaknesses and identifying them and then going back to the practice and using that as a tool to actually improve, as opposed to just improving through getting the hang of the test through repetitive practice. You can get a lot more improvement by attacking your weaknesses and trying to fill the gap between your score and a 36, as opposed to just practicing again and again. So what is the first step of this 3-step process? Well, it's to practice. So you have to start practicing at first and take some exams or practice tests to get the hang of what the ACT reading exam is like. It is a very weird test. It is out there to trick you, and you have to get used to how it's going to ask these tricky questions that are basically made for you to answer incorrectly. So take an initial practice exam or a couple, get a basic understanding of where your weaknesses lie. Now, if you've already done this, then the next 2 steps is where you really make your money. Also, make sure that when you practice, you simulate the test environment. Keep it quiet, don't have any distractions, no food, no pets, no music. Just, I would say ideally print out the exam or have it on like an iPad or something in front of you and go through it like a real exam, like a real ACT simulation. Use all of the timing rules and try to take all of it together. But if you can't take all of it together, then take it sections at a time, and that works as well. But simulate that in test environment as much as possible, and that will give you the best result in terms of how you can see how you're actually doing on the ACT. What is the second step? It is to pinpoint your weaknesses and learn from your mistakes. Look at the questions that you got wrong in your practice exams, and most likely you'll probably see after you take a couple or a few practice exams, you're going to notice patterns in the type of questions that you're getting right. Maybe, for example, you're getting all the vocab questions correctly, but you're having a really hard time with the minute details questions. Or maybe you're getting all of the big ideas and main ideas questions correct, but you're missing out on comparative relationships and sequences of events. So try to understand where your weaknesses lie. Try to notice any trends in the questions that you're getting correct as well as the ones that you're getting wrong, because this will help you to get an understanding of what do I need to look for more so when I'm skimming the passage or reading the passage, trying to maximize my understanding in those 2 or 3 minutes that it's taking to skim. Now, how does that skimming process work? That is the 3rd step to mastering the reading section. It is to have a very effective skimming strategy. And what is the skimming strategy that I recommend? It's called passage glancing. I've talked about this before on this channel, but it's basically skimming, but more specific. When you passage glance, you're doing exactly what it sounds like. You're glancing through the passage, you're just looking at everything, not really taking everything in, not interpreting every detail, but you're just looking at it. You just take note of where all the main ideas are located. Don't try to understand everything. Don't try to understand what the passage is saying in its entirety, but understand where the main ideas are located. Maybe in this paragraph there's this event, or in this paragraph it's talking about this person's emotions. In this paragraph there's this relationship that I should take note of. Look at the organization of the passage, not just the main details. I wouldn't recommend trying to interpret all the details because that takes too much time, too much effort, and you don't need most of the details that are in the passage to answer the questions. Get a basic gist and move on to the questions. Refer back to the passage when you need to go over some details. There are 3 things that most questions will ask about, and you need to be looking for these 3 things while you are passage glancing. The 3 things are relationships, events, and emotions. Relationships are very common asked about in these ACT reading questions, whether it's a relationship between a person and another person, a person and an object, anything like that, any relationship, as well as how it develops over time. It could also be a compare and contrast relationship. So take note of how things are related and make sure that you understand them because they will be asked about. When I talk about these 3 things, you don't have to know them in depth to a great extent in the passage, but just take note of them. The second thing is emotions. So emotions, whether it's someone's emotions in relation to another person's, this is kind of related to relationships, but any emotions that are expressed in the passage, take note of them, because especially in passages where there are characters and there are relationships between those characters, those emotions will be asked about. And the third thing is events. It could be a historical passage, it could be a passage about a scientific event. Take note of the sequence of events as well as the events themselves, where the main events are in the passage, what paragraphs they are in, things like that. These are the three main things that almost every ACT reading question will be asking you about, and you need to know those things, at least to a very basic extent, and where they are in the passage, so that when you're asked about them in depth, or just in a general sense, you know where to look back to the passage for to get a better understanding of them if you need. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but with passage glancing, you want to ideally go through the passage in 2 to 3 minutes. The less time you take, the better, and the more basic of an understanding you get. It doesn't have to be super detailed of an understanding. Just know what's going on, know what the basic plot is, and move on. That's all you need. As long as you know the basic plot in the most basic sense, as well as where the main ideas are located in the passage as well, and you have a basic understanding of the passage organization, then you're set to answering all the questions correctly on the reading section. I kid you not. The last thing that I'll leave you with is that you have to practice this like crazy. Like I said, the reading section is really weird, and the more you practice it, the more you familiarize yourself with the kind of questions that are asked, as well as the topics that these passages are going to be about, which is, again, totally random, totally weird passages, but you have to get used to that. You have to also practice your skills of passage glancing and those strategies that you're going to be using. We have plenty of more strategies that you can use in some of our other ACT reading videos that are in the playlist that this video will be in as well, so you can check those out if you need. But that's about it. Focus on doing those 3 things that I talked about, those 3 steps. Again, I'll go through them. Practice if you haven't already practiced, and look over your practice exams, which is step 2. Get an understanding of your mistakes, your weaknesses, and learn from them. Look at the patterns and the trends in the questions that you're getting wrong. And the last thing is to look for those 3 things: relationships, emotions, events. If you practice this approach, and do your very best, you can get the kind of improvement that I did. 15 points, I'm not even kidding, it works. So go ahead, practice it. There are practice exams in the description below, and I wish you the best of luck. Peace.